The silence arrives first in the body. It is a subtle draining, a quiet retreat, as if your soul has taken a step back from the window of your eyes. You are being loved, actively and attentively, and yet you feel yourself turning to marble. A hand reaches for yours, a kind word is spoken with genuine warmth, and an internal system you did not consciously build slams into effect. It is an ancient protocol, a fail-safe. A vault door, heavy and seamless, swings shut in the center of your chest, muffling the world, turning vibrant color into muted gray. You can observe the love being offered. You can see its shape, its intention, like a beautifully wrapped gift. But between you and it is a thickness, a pane of emotional glass. You are on the inside, in a silence so profound you can hear the echo of your own heartbeat. The paradox is exquisite in its cruelty. You are most profoundly alone precisely when you are being reached for. The very thing your entire being has secretly ached for, to be seen, to be held in someone's conscious affection, to be chosen, becomes, in the moment of its delivery, a trigger. It registers not as solace, but as a seismic event. An alarm, silent but blinding in its urgency, pulses through your nervous system. Danger, exposure, imminent threat. This reaction defies all logic, which is how you know it is older than logic. It is memory etched into your cells, a story written in the language of biology and survival. The very mechanism that once, in a distant past, kept you safe, this shutdown, this strategic emotional disappearance, is now the architect of your loneliness. It has walled you off from the rescue team. You built a fortress to protect a wound, and now you are both the warden and the prisoner, serving a life sentence within its cold, familiar walls. Do not mistake this for coldness. This is not indifference. This is a state of holy, desperate preservation. You are protecting a flame so small and vulnerable that you believe even the breath of love might extinguish it. To navigate this inner landscape, we must first name its features with the precision of cartographers mapping a hidden continent. This shutting down is not a choice, not a personality quirk. It is a neurological imperative. The first concept is attachment trauma. Your earliest blueprint for love and connection was drawn during a storm. In your formative, helpless years, your vulnerability, your crying, your need for comfort, your reaching out, was met with a critical mismatch. Perhaps it was met with withdrawal, a turned back, a sigh of irritation, a passive silence that taught you your needs were a burden, an annoyance to be silenced. Perhaps it was met with chaotic engulfment. A caregiver's own anxiety, anger, or neediness would flood over your fragile emotions, so your sadness or fear became a trigger for their drama, teaching you that your feelings were dangerous tsunamis that would drown others. Or perhaps it was met with a brittle, conditional performance. Love that was withdrawn when you failed. Affection that was a transaction for good behavior or achievement. The lesson was not learned cognitively like a math equation. It was inscribed directly onto the operating system of your nervous system. To need is to risk devastation. To attach is to endanger the core self. Vulnerability is the prelude to abandonment. The second mechanism is the collapse response. We are familiar with fight or flight. We know of freeze, like a deer in headlights. But there is a deeper, more profound strategy: collapse. This is the dorsal vagal branch of your autonomic nervous system, your body's most primitive survival circuit, pulling the ultimate breaker. When a fight is impossible, you cannot fight your caregivers, and flight is unthinkable, you cannot flee as a dependent child, the system opts for disappearance. It depresses your metabolic functions. It drops your blood pressure, slows your heart to a whisper, and induces a numb, spaced-out detachment. Biologically, it plays dead. Psychologically and emotionally, it goes offline. You learned, in essence, to leave the scene of the pain before you could be left there, to reject a connection before you could be rejected, to make yourself invisible because visibility was perilous. The third reality is emotional alexithymia. A fortress does not need an interior decorator. Its purpose is emptiness, not feeling. When you shut down, you are not merely concealing your emotions from others, you are exiling them from your own awareness. The neural pathways that connect your limbic system, the deep, ancient brain where raw emotion is generated, to your prefrontal cortex, where those sensations are named, processed, and integrated, become darkened, like a power grid shut down in a storm. You may feel something, a dense pressure in the chest, a hollow static in the mind, a weight in the limbs. But you cannot translate this somatic Morse code into the clear sentences of emotion. I am hurt. I am scared. I feel overwhelmed with love, and it terrifies me. It is a fog that swallows the signal fires of your own heart. Consequently, your identity becomes sculpted around endurance, around the absence of need. Your self-worth becomes perversely tied to your own invisibility. You believe you are most valuable when you are least burdensome. Love, in this weird reality, is not a nutrient. It is a system overload. It is a torrent of water flooding a circuitry engineered for a desert. Your nervous system, that ancient vigilant guardian, cannot compute the outstretched hand as safe. It cross-references it with an old catastrophic database and misreads it as a raised fist, as a prelude to pain. It whispers the foundational lie that has governed your emotional life. It is safer to starve than to risk the poison. The cost of maintaining this sanctuary of silence is a slow, pervasive, and often invisible grief. It is the grief of the self for the self. An internal civil war rages without cease. The primal biological imperative for bonding and connection battles the terrified, learned imperative for isolation and self-protection. This war leads to a profound emotional exhaustion, not the fatigue of a long day, but the soul-deep weariness of a soldier perpetually standing guard in a war that ended decades ago, unable to believe the peace is real. The poet Rilke wrote, "Perhaps all the dragons in our lives are princesses who are only waiting to see us act, just once, with beauty and courage." But what do you do when the dragon you must face is your own capacity for courage, twisted into a weapon against itself? Your shutdown is not cowardice. It is courage deformed, fossilized. It is the courage to face a world yearning for love by constructing an impeccable, elegant refusal to feel it. The psychologist Carl Jung spoke of the shadow, those disowned, rejected parts of ourselves we banish into the unconscious darkness, where they gather power and influence our lives in unseen ways. For you, your shadow is not some dark malevolence. It is your own softness. Your capacity for deep, passionate, messy, needy, glorious attachment is your shadow. You have been taught to see it as a fatal weakness, a liability that will lead to your undoing. So you buried it alive, and now it haunts you, not as a monster, but as a ghost. The specter of all the love you could have given and received, the phantom life of connection that flickers just beyond your reach. This creates a relentless existential tension. The philosopher Nietzsche warned, "He who fights with monsters should look to it that he himself does not become a monster. And if you gaze long into an abyss, the abyss also gazes into you." You have gazed, from a terrifyingly young age, into the abyss of abandonment, of emotional neglect, of conditional love. And in your struggle to survive that gaze, a part of you has internalized the abyss. You have become a quiet, controlled, manageable emptiness to avoid being consumed by a chaotic, overwhelming one. The Stoic Seneca offered, "We suffer more often in imagination than in reality." For you, the inverse is true. Your present reality is constructed upon an old, imagined, or once very real threat that has become a physiological fact. You suffer because your imagination for safety, for a secure landing, was severed. You suffer because you cannot envision a love that does not, in some hidden way, intend to harm or leave. You grieve for the self who could linger at a dinner table, laughing with an unguarded, open face. You grieve for the lover who could surrender to the vulnerable, trusting dark, who could say, "I need you," without a following surge of shame. You grieve for the friend who could receive a compliment without instantly performing a complex deflection. You carry the ghost of your own unlived life within you, a constant, silent companion. And its name is loneliness. So how does this ghost, this ancient protocol, dress itself in the clothing of your adult life? The manifestations are both subtle and pervasive. In relationships, you may become an unintentional saboteur, a master of the slow fade or the preemptive breakup. You sense the relationship deepening toward real security, and a deep autonomic panic sets in. You may pick fights over trivialities, create emotional distance, or become hypercritical, all to reintroduce the familiar chaos that your nervous system mistakes for normal. Stability feels suspicious. Chaos feels like home. You perceive healthy attachment as clinginess and generosity as suffocation. You might withdraw affection the moment it is genuinely reciprocated, as if touching a hot stove. Unconsciously, you create tests, pushing the other person away to see if they'll stay. And when they, confused and hurt, finally retreat, your deepest, oldest belief is confirmed. See? I was right. Love is unreliable. It always leaves. In your career and ambition, this pattern manifests as a profound discomfort with visibility and success. You undersell your achievements, attributing them to luck. You reject mentorship or help, believing you must accomplish everything alone to be legitimate. Positive recognition feels like a spotlight you desperately want to escape. Criticism, ironically, feels more honest, more familiar, and thus safer. You isolate yourself professionally, believing collaboration is a risk of exposure. With boundaries, you struggle to find a healthy middle ground. Your boundaries are not the flexible fences of a person who can negotiate intimacy. They are either the imposing, unscalable walls of the fortress, allowing no one in, or they are completely absent. You may let people trample you because to assert a need is to be vulnerable, or you may wall off completely at the first sign of a demand. There is often no functional gate. Your sense of self-worth is precariously tied to your utility, your stoicism, and your ability not to need. You believe love is not a gift, but a wage you must earn through service, through silence, through perfect performance. The concept of being loved simply for your existence, for the messy human fact of you, feels like a foreign language or a dangerous illusion. Your emotional responses become muted or intellectualized. When conflict or deep emotion arises, you don't move toward anger or sorrow. You move toward numbness. You analyze the feeling from a clinical distance instead of inhabiting it. You disappear into your mind, leaving your body and your partner behind. Their pleas, "Please talk to me. What are you feeling?" meet a silence that feels, to them, like abandonment, and to you, like the only safe harbor. Your identity crystallizes around these defenses. You are the low-maintenance friend, the rock, the independent one who doesn't need anything. You have curated an entire personality organized around the absence of need, and you wear this identity like a suit of armor, forgetting that inside, you are slowly starving for the very nutrients you've sworn off. Awareness of these patterns is the first quiet rebellion against this internal regime. Self-witnessing is the compassionate act of observing your own shutdown not as a character flaw, but as a frightened child's brilliant, outdated survival strategy playing out on the adult stage of your life. Unlearning is not about swinging to the opposite pole, becoming needy or dramatic. It is the patient, delicate work of finding that narrow, vital path between the impregnable fortress and the raw, exposed nerve. It is discovered that the vault door you sealed long ago still has a handle on the inside. The journey back to feeling, to connection, must begin where the exile began, in the nervous system. Healing is not primarily a cognitive puzzle to solve. It is a physiological state to cultivate. You must provide your body with counter-evidence in small, digestible doses that it can be safe while feeling. This is the practice of grounding. When you feel the familiar retreat, the numbing fog descend, your task is not to force feeling, but to reclaim presence. Feel the solid weight of your feet on the floor. Press your palms into a surface and notice the texture, the temperature. Name 5 things you can see in sharp detail. This is not a simplistic trick. It is a biological intervention. It signals to the dorsal vagal system that you are here, now, in a body that is supported, and that the ancient threat is not present in this moment. It pulls your consciousness from the frozen past into the alive present. From this grounded place, you can begin the tender work of inner child reparenting. That shutdown reflex is not an enemy. It is a young, terrified part of you that took on a heroic role, the guardian of the gates. When you feel the walls go up, instead of fighting them, turn inward. In your mind's eye, meet that young part. See them holding the heavy door. Speak to them with the warmth, consistency, and reassurance you once needed. I see you. You are working so hard. You are scared that if you let go, we will be hurt. Thank you for protecting us for so long. But I am here now. I have grown. I can handle this. You can rest. I've got us. This internal dialogue is not silly. It is the process of reintegration, of bringing the exiled protector back into the fold of your adult self. Next, practice building emotional boundaries that are flexible and life-giving, a garden gate you can open and close, not a permanent wall. A boundary like, I'm feeling overwhelmed and need 20 minutes of quiet to process before we continue this talk, is a boundary that protects the connection rather than severing it. It communicates a need from a place of self-awareness, not from a place of punitive withdrawal. Then, engage in shadow work. Invite your exiled capacity for need, for messy attachment, out of the darkness. Do this through writing, through art, through imagination. Write a letter from that part of you. Let it say all the things you've never allowed. I am terrified of needing you. I want to be held, and I am scared it will vanish. My love is vast and hungry, and I have locked it away. Listen to this voice without judgment. By acknowledging it, you drain its power to act autonomously from the shadows. This is not a race to become fixed or normal. The goal is not to demolish the fortress in a single violent act, which would only leave you feeling exposed and terrified. The goal is to become the architect of your own inner space, to build windows where there were only walls, to install a door you control, to prove to your vigilant nervous system in tiny, repeated moments of safe connection with a friend, a partner, a therapist, even with yourself, that love can land softly, that attention can be kind, that need is not a death sentence. You are not broken. You are a complex, sophisticated, and deeply intelligent survival story. And every survival story, when the long war is finally over, faces its most delicate and challenging chapter. Learning how to lay down the arms, to trust the peace, to inhabit the tender and terrifying vulnerability of simply being alive, connected, and feeling. The wounded heart learns to beat in a secret rhythm, one that keeps time with a danger that has long passed. Healing is the slow, brave work of learning the rhythm of the present. The ultimate goal was never to fix what was never broken, but to understand the brilliant, protective architecture of your own soul. And in that deep, compassionate understanding, to gently, patiently, teach your heart that the war has ended, the truce is real, and it is finally safe to come home.